Sabaidi everybody. It's a nice breezy Sunday afternoon here in Laos. It's still hot, it's humid. So for 30 years of the grind, my daily life started off on cue by its first master of the day, my alarm clock. When I lost my job and retired early in Laos with my wife, do you know what I looked forward to the most? Throwing that master in the trash. I was ready to design my day exactly the way I wanted to. No timeline, no schedule, no meetings, no frantic rush, no traffic, no noise. Just pure freedom. So fast forward 6 months, guess what I'm doing? I am voluntarily waking up to my alarm again. I'm fighting the chaotic morning rush hour, sitting in a classroom for 3 straight hours every day. Can you believe how much of a turn my life has taken? So welcome back to Winding Down Chronicles, and today's fail, I'm going to talk about how I completely lost my morning of peace to go right back to school. To first cut the cord, at least for me, the transition is kind of scary and confusing. There is shock to it. For the first few weeks, my mind and body were in a huge conflict. My internal clock was so deep in the matrix that my body still woke me up at 5 or 6 a.m., even though I was tired. But I knew I needed some recovery time to get used to it. So I forced myself up to enjoy the morning, and at first it was heaven. It wasn't perfect. I still had dross anxiety from work. Just knowing my morning, I didn't need to be anywhere and working on something was pure heaven. So I set up my morning routine. I experimented with my different non-electric coffee makers, different kinds of grinds to find the perfect coffee. Out of habit, I still opened up the inbox, so I had to smile. There was almost nothing but spam. The best part was looking out at the heavy downpour coming out of my balcony and just knowing I didn't have to squeeze my bike through any kind of early morning traffic to get to work. Within a few months, my body started adjusting. I gradually started waking up later and later. I was reading, I was meditating, I was starting my morning slow and soft. The only thing structured I really had was church on Sundays and private Lao lessons 2 or 3 times a week for 1 hour a day. It was comfortable, but by the 3rd month, I started pushing my 9 a.m. lessons toward noon. I told myself I'm retired on a moderate budget and I don't need to push anything early anymore. I fell completely in love with the slow, soft start to my days. But I think there's a dark side to the early retirement free time that you won't realize sitting behind an office desk, and you will only realize when you're actually in retirement. Free time expands to fill a void, and if you aren't careful, it can turn into pure procrastination. By month 4, those awesome slow starts were starting to become blurred and carrying over into my afternoons. I wasn't doing the rigorous self-study anymore. I found myself lingering over a cup of coffee just to burn time. The temptation to scroll too long just was there. The rigid work armor and work hours that I had before were completely gone. And the productive, disciplined guy underneath, I was starting to feel a bit lazy. But right around that time, I remember that there was an in-person Lao language school and contacted them for the details. They replied, they said, "You're in luck and the new semester starts tomorrow." 11 weeks, 4 days a week. And the price, an absolute steal. Only $220 for the entire course, plus you pay for the books, which is another $10 or $15. My finance brain immediately calculated the cost efficiency of this. That's only 6 hours a day for 3 hours of Lao versus the $12 an hour I was paying for a private tutor. But then came the fine print. The schedule was firmly locked for 9 o'clock in the a.m. to 12. And boom, just like that, my peaceful morning blueprint was completely annihilated. Having to get up again made some of my work anxiety come back to me. Before I knew it, I was right back to setting an alarm with no mental prep time. And it started tomorrow, which was probably a good thing. So I was back to starting my day dodging cars in a tropical downpour, just to arrive at a building and sit in a classroom for 3 hours a day. If you think the transition back to a rigid schedule was a shock, let me paint another picture about the classroom. Lao is a tonal language. It is incredibly complex, at least to me, and especially for someone who's partially deaf. For example, any accent could say the word cat in English, and you know exactly they're saying cat. It could be Southern accent, French accent, British accent, Asian accent, any kind of accent. If they say cat, for the 99% of the time, you're going to know they're saying cat. You know the tone or the speed of it is completely indifferent to the word. But here is a simple yet crude example of Lao. The penalty for saying I, like me, incorrectly in Lao and in the wrong tone, you are very likely saying the word dick. Koi versus koi. And it's very subtle. And before, I couldn't hear that. I can hear it now, but I couldn't hear it before. So I really need to train my ears to it. The brain needs to train to it. And you have to memorize it. So I've successfully learned 4 other languages over the course of my life. I've been working across the globe. But Lao language is a mountain. I don't know if it could be the age working against me. It could be. It's definitely harder than any language I've learned. And I learned to speak in African dialect. My classmates are almost entirely Korean. Now think about this dynamic for a second. The teacher speaks only Lao and a little English. Most of my Korean classmates don't speak English fluently. Some of them don't speak it at all. So you have a classroom where the students they're around my age and older. They're trying to translate a high-speed tonal language through an English framework they don't fully understand, and guided by a teacher who doesn't speak a word of Korean. I asked them if Korean has any resemblance to Lao, and they just laughed and said, not even a little. So watching them navigate this linguistic labyrinth between Thai, Lao, English translation is really amazing. I am very impressed with them. If it was me, I wouldn't even bother. It makes you realize how resilient people are and how they have to adapt here. Almost no English spoken in the class for 3 hours. So this is forced immersion. And it works for me because I'm not really getting much more Lao outside because I don't really socialize and go out. Listening to the Lao language for 3 hours a day and being put on the spot to speak and read out loud with structured homework plan and actually socializing with people really forced my brain out of falling into a comfortable retirement fog. I was starting to feel lazy. So 2 weeks ago, I finally wrapped up the first semester. It was casual. It was very enjoyable. I mean, it's not like I'm going to fail. The only thing I fail at is, do I learn Lao faster or not? It's really up to me. They grade you and they tell you where you need to improve, but it's really up to you if you want to progress or not. I finally wrapped up that semester and they put about 2.5 months in between each semesters, but I was really looking forward to having a slow morning again. The logical thing would be claim my slow mornings back for a while, sit on the porch and experiment with my coffee grinds again, until the next semester, right? But nope, not me. When they announced this 7-week intensive summer course, I signed up immediately. No hesitation. You can call me a glutton for punishment, and I call myself a glutton for punishment. I do this to myself all the time. So after 30 years of working in dangerous environments around the globe, it's taught me one fundamental truth. Determination wins out over comfort every single time. Learning the Lao language is my absolute number 1 priority for my first year in early retirement. Back in my slower, softer mornings, I even started picking up the guitar for a while, and I just started picking it up pretty well. And I also had plans to resume the draft of my memoir that I wanted to finish this first year in Lao, and I was expecting to pick it back up by the halfway through the year. The amount of time I'm spending learning Lao has completely postponed all that. So I laid the guitar back down again, and I delayed again opening up the draft of my 500-page memoir, at least for another 5 more months. I'm not going to pack my days like I did when I was working. This is a lesson learned. I tried to put too much into my free days. My old habits of filling my free days when I was working are still hard habits for me to break. So right now, 6 months in, I have 2 priorities: to learn Lao and regain my health back to the best of my ability. And both of those things I can enjoy with my wife, which was another priority, spending more time with her, even if it was just sitting around. I knew deep down that I would regret wasting my slow morning procrastination far more than I would ever regret sacrificing a few hours of sleep to actually grow and to learn the language of the woman I absolutely adore, my wife, and do my best to be able to communicate to the people in the country I'm living in. I believe if you're retired and in a country that speaks a different language to your native tongue, I think you're doing yourself a great disservice to yourself and your host citizens if you're not even trying or remotely trying to learn the language. Retirement isn't about perma-vacation. I think it's a process of active discovery, and my theme for going into this year, and still is, abide, recovery, and discovery. The guitar and the draft memoir, they'll be there when I'm ready to pick it up again, if and when I'm ready. Things evolve. I'm evolving. I think the most beneficial long-term goal I can achieve for the long haul right now is to learn the Lao language of the host country where I live with my wife. So the experiment continues. I delayed 2 other priorities and I traded my dream mornings to be a student again. I have a notebook full of vocabulary that I need to memorize, but I honestly struggle with. But I think it's the best fail I can make in the present so far. I believe that looking back 1 year, 4 years, 6 years from now and saying that I didn't take the time to learn the language would be even bigger fail. I look back 10 years ago when I moved to Laos the first time. I started learning it and then I stopped, thinking I would never stay here. That was a reasonable thought. But now I know I'm going to be living here, and I know in a couple years I will regret not investing the time. I don't know how good I would be at the language, but I'm going to give it the best shot I can. One thing I can say is I'm going to be better. I'm better than I was 6 months ago. So if you're out there trying to build a real-world retirement blueprint without the fake filters, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Give me a like on this video. I really appreciate it. And let me know down in the comments, when you envisioned your retirement, are you on the team of total slow morning, non-negotiable? Or do you think that you'd get hit by procrastination trap like I did? And then how did you structure it? Or are you just floating by? So this is Winding Down Chronicles. Keep an eye on your numbers, but remember to live the life you built for them. And that's this week's fail, so you don't have to make it. See you in the next one, everybody.